everybody, it's Riv. So today we're going to be talking about age regression. I have gotten so many questions on age regression, especially since I came out as being an age regressor. Sounds weird saying like I came out, but actually that's something that happens, like you have to come out. And that's because there's so much stigma against it, and it's so taboo, and it's surprising how taboo age regression is. And I decided that I was going to talk about it and bring up all the facts about it. So I get so many questions all the time about what is age regression. What is it specifically? What does it entail? Is age regression and age sliding the same thing? Don't mind my kid. This is what it's like to film with children. But yeah, is age regression and age sliding the same thing? Is age regression a kink? I've gotten so many questions about this, and I wanted to address it all so that I can clear it up, because I don't feel like age regression is spoken about enough. I feel like there is this huge taboo label on it, and those that do age regress tend to be very ashamed or very shy, and they hide it, or at least from those that I've spoken to after I've come out, like none of them want to publicly say like I am an age regressor. And you shouldn't have to go public about it. It's your coping mechanism, but there shouldn't be shame behind it. And so I wanted to, oh my god, I wanted to cover it. So to start off with age sliding and age regression. Age sliding is a DID specific trait. It is when an alter slides either backwards in age or can increase in age. It is not something that really happens outside of DID systems. Age sliding is very DID specific. Age regression is a coping mechanism. It can be used by all. A lot of the times you will see it with people that do have childhood trauma, but it is not only limited to those that have childhood trauma. It could be to anybody that is dealing and coping with anything from depression, anxiety, to trauma that happened in adulthood. It is a very common coping mechanism, and it is when you are backward sliding or age regressing to a younger age or younger state. It does not necessarily mean toddler or baby. It could be anything. It could be middles, so teens, 8 to 12, anything like that. If your age is going backwards, that is age regression. Something we get asked a lot is if age regression is a kink, or we actually get accused of this constantly. I have been called a baby fetish on more than one occasion. Age regression is not DDLG, and it is not age play, and I want to be very clear about that. Those are completely separate things. DDLG and age play are they are common in the BDSM community, and they are kinks, but that is not what age regression is. Because when you age regress, when you go backslide in age, you are literally in the mindset of a child. And so having any kind of relations in that sort of a headspace would literally kind of be like having it with a child. And it's a big no-no. So I like to tell people continuously that age regression is completely non-sexual. There is nothing sexual or kink or whatever related about it. It is not a fetish. Age regression is a very common coping mechanism. Age regression is also commonly seen in those with DID. Really? Sorry about that. As I was saying, it is very common for those with DID to age regress. Not every DID system will have an age regressor in it. It may not happen. That's very common as well. But like I said earlier, a chunk of age regression has to do with dealing with trauma and dealing with childhood trauma. And no, that is not a qualification for being an age regressor. You don't necessarily need childhood trauma in order to age regress. It is a coping mechanism for a lot of people to cope with anything, but it is also used to cope with childhood trauma. And so, you know, the whole thing with DAD is childhood trauma. So it is very common for those with DAD to have an age regressor in their system. Not all. I want to specifically say that not all systems will have an age regressor, but it is common and seen. Another question that I get a lot is, what is the difference between a system little and an age regression little? An age regression little is a little that has regressed in age for coping mechanism purposes. A DAD system little is a child alter. Not the same thing at all. Not at all. Child alters usually are that age always. They do not go up and down. Sometimes they do age. It really depends on the system because every system is different. But a DAD system little is a child alter in a system, and a age regression little is someone that has regressed in age to cope with whatever they're coping with. I've also been told by multiple amounts of people that age regression isn't healthy. It's not a healthy way of coping. That is completely wrong. A lot of therapists will actually use age regression in their therapy with clients that have trauma, especially childhood trauma, to help them go through it and process it and heal. Age regression is used for that. And so to say that age regression is not a healthy way of coping, it's a toxic mindset. You don't have to agree with someone being an age regressor. You don't have to necessarily understand it completely. Just know that it is a healthy way of coping and it is completely valid. Okay, so now that we sort of understand what age regression is and what an age regression little is, we can get into other things about age regression. For example, gear, caregivers, and so on. When I mention gear, a lot of you may not necessarily understand what I mean by that, so I'm going to expand. When I mean gear, I mean pacifiers, bottles, wearing cutesy clothes, things that are specifically for little you. Some people like to have that, and that's okay, and some people don't. Some people, when they age regress, they just act like a younger age, and they color, and they do whatever activities that are safe for them in that mindset at that time, and that's okay too. You don't need a pacifier or a bottle or a onesie or little clothes in order to be an age regressor. That's not what makes you valid. But if you do want that, that's completely okay too, and you shouldn't feel ashamed or upset or bad about that, because those are items that you can use for comfort. For myself as an age regressor, we have lots of cutesy clothing for when we are little. Well, when I'm little, because I am the only age regressor in my system. I have pacifiers, I have bottles, I have onesies, I have little dresses and little outfits, and coincidentally, it actually works out very well for our system because our littles absolutely love all of that. So for me, it works out because when I age regress, I can have these comfort items, and even if I'm switched out and one of the littles are out, they can also have these comfort items. It just kind of works out for us. Something else I wanted to touch upon is caregivers, like I mentioned. Caregivers for littles, I feel like, is very controversial and is really hard sometimes to talk about, because immediately people think that if you have a caregiver and you're a little, that means that it is a kink. And that is definitely not the case. A caregiver for an age regression little is literally just that. They are a caregiver. They take care of you, they make sure that you're fed, they make sure you go to the bathroom, they make sure you brush your teeth. They will make bottles for you, they will cook for you, they care for you as if they're caring for an actual child. Not all littles need a caregiver. I want to be very clear about that. Not all littles need or want a caregiver, and that's okay. But if you do, that's all right also. I have seen in my experience littles have their significant others be their caregivers, and sometimes they'll call them mommy or they'll call them daddy, whatever it is. And that is also something that freaks people out automatically, is that this grown person who has regressed into this little space state is calling their significant other mommy or daddy, and they immediately think, kink. It's not a kink. This is literally a child calling their caregiver mommy or daddy, and if they spoke about this beforehand and they have consented to it, that's fine. That's okay. There is nothing sexual about the relationship when the person is in little space. They are completely in that headspace of a child, and having any kind of relationship with them would be really wrong. So a caregiver is nothing more than an actual caregiver. They are there to love you and take care of you and make sure that you're safe, because you're really in that headspace of being a child at that time. You regress. I did also want to mention that age regression is not necessarily always something that you do purposely. Sometimes it is spontaneous and involuntary. For myself, age regression is involuntary. It usually happens when I am extremely depressed, anxious, or there is a trigger, and I will not be able to stop myself from sliding backwards, no matter how much I fight it. And I have fought it very much before. This child, he will not leave me alone. But he's so happy and cute. Oh my god, I love him so much. Yeah. So that's kind of really the basics of age regression. Hopefully in vlogs that I hope to make in the future and videos in general, if any of you have any like specific age regression questions that you want to ask, I can expand in more videos to come. If people want me to show off the gear that I do have, so on and so forth, we can definitely do that. We are very open about our age regression because we know so many people that are so ashamed and so uncomfortable about the fact that they're age regressors. So we don't mind. I hope you guys found this informative. I tried my best. I've been reading articles about it, and I just really have been I tried to give you my personal knowledge and experience, and things that people have told me, just to really clear it up, because age regression should be talked about more instead of hush hush and hid away. Of course, if you do age regress, you want to do it in a place that is safe. You don't necessarily always want to be in public, or something happens and you start age sliding at work. That wouldn't be a safe situation. But we should know what it is and how to take care of it and what to do, especially if it's happening to us, because it can be really scary. Age regression can be really, really scary. I know that firsthand. I know before I accepted being an age regression, before I accepted being an age regressor, I would be terrified every time I regressed, and I would be scared. And so I don't want anyone to feel that. So I plan on making another video on just how to cope when you do regress, and actually tips on, if you're not in a safe environment, how to get back to a big age. There's actually lots of exercises that you can do to help you go back to to your original age if you've been triggered or involuntarily regress in public or in a not safe area. So we will touch on that next time. Thank you all for watching. I love you all.